I'm a gun with for the Gators.
Okay. I was just checking to see if you were listening.
From Cheyenne, Louisiana. Hold on a second.
Hey, guys! Hey! I'm having a press conference, okay? Thank you.
Momentum, excitement, energy. They say all this stuff, and you know what they mean, but it doesn't describe what you mean. It's just sort of out there.
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
I was just worried about, listening to, all your guys' rap poison.
Welcome to Sideline Judgment. Here are your hosts, Sergio and Tyler.
Welcome to Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And today, Tyler, we are talking all about the biggest game of the AFC so far to date in the NFL season. The Dolphins and the Chiefs from Germany, Deutschland, Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That is not
6:30 a.m. for your boy.
Oh, good Lord. That sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
okay. I woke up for the Jaguars games for it. I love you, buddy. It's not happening this week.
I don't blame you. It's okay. Honestly, if I had to wake up at 6:30 for the Dolphins game,
I had to do it 2 weeks in a row.
You know what? This week might be one that if I had to wake up at 6:30, I'd do it because we're playing the Chiefs and it's a big game. But if we were playing the Giants,
I missed the first quarter both times.
Yeah, so it's not happening. But we're not actually talking about that today. You will get some Tua comments as is customary on this podcast. But what we're actually talking about, Tyler, is what happened all of last week in week 9 of the college football season. We'll also be previewing week 10 via our 5 wide and 2 point. But Tyler, we're going to kick things off and we're going to switch the order up today.
Yeah. Do we have to talk about everything? Do we have to talk about all the games?
We don't have to talk about all the games, but we'll definitely mention all the games that I have written down here. I put a lot of effort into this rundown, Tyler. All right, I put a lot of work.
I want listeners. You can't see this, but he put a lot of effort into this. It looks very good. It is way more pages than it usually is.
It's because of the schedules I've added. I'm sorry.
Get this man a Canva subscription.
Yes, exactly. But Tyler, something else happened very big on Halloween night, and that is the first edition of the college football playoff rankings. And that is how we're going to structure our show from now moving through the rest of the season and for the next month, because it really is just another, 4 more weeks or so until we get to conference championship games.
By the way, can you believe that it's been almost 10 years that we've been doing this? Well, not us, but like this college football playoff rankings.
I was like, I know 7 rounds up to 10, but I wouldn't say it's a decade yet, Tyler. But yes, I agree with you. It's been 10 years since this happened. Jameis Winston was in college football the last when this thing first started. Isn't that crazy? I know. Insanity. We're going to play our customary too high, too low, just right. But we're going to put a little spin on it because I've put the score of each of the top 25 ranked teams' games. So we will talk about those games briefly when we get to that part of the rankings. In addition to that, we will let you know when the games are part of last week's 5 wide and 2 point. And we will give you the scores at the end of the top 25 so we can count them up. Spoiler alert, I had a bad week. Tyler caught up and made some ground.
We coming.
Okay, sure. But alas, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Tyler, we have a brand new number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
It's the Ohio State Buckeyes. What do you think of that ranking?
My initial reaction was too high.
Really?
But I've come back on that because my initial reaction, we kind of talk about this all the group, is that Georgia was kind of the consensus number 1 based off history and pedigree, and they finally start looking like themselves this past week.
History and pedigree is a weird way to say bias, but please continue.
Okay, back-to-back national champions. We have to give it to them.
All right.
But I would say that Michigan has looked the most dominant of all the teams this year. However, what both of these teams don't have, that Ohio State does have, is that both of these teams don't have big wins in that wins against really good teams.
Correct.
Like high pedigree. And Ohio State has 2 of those. And with Wisconsin, you could argue
one of them on the road.
One of them on the road, another game.
Winning drive against a good Notre Dame defense.
And then while technically, yes, and mathematically a 1-score game against Penn State, don't kid yourself. That was not a 1-score game.
No.
So that was one of those things where Ohio State has looked, typically in years past under Ryan Day, have looked dynamite, explosive offensively, and okay, very talented on defense, but not like the best in the country.
Right.
And they kind of flipped the script this year. Their defense is absolutely elite this year, and their offense is great, is talented. Not the dynamite that we are used to seeing. They
Right.
look more like a normal Georgia team. And when you really look at the resume of, okay, like, yeah, they haven't looked like the craziest of the top three. They do have the best wins. I think it's just right.
I completely agree. I think it's just right based on that exact logic. And I think that was shown in this week's victory, 24-10 over Wisconsin. We're probably going to see this game. Well, I don't want to say probably, but we will potentially see this game again in a month when we get to the conference championship game in the Big Ten. We both get the points on this one. That was one of our 5 wide points last week. But similar to the Penn State game, how it was technically a 1-score game and how this technically is just a 14-point victory. And while it was close in the first half score-wise, you could just see how Ohio State was dominating on the line of scrimmage. And look, this isn't an insult. This isn't an insult to Wisconsin. I think that Luke Fickell is doing a great job in Wisconsin in his first season. It's just that Ohio State and Michigan are clearly the big boys in this conference. There is really no more. We don't have to go more in depth than that. We already know that. That's been established through the first 2 months of the year, 2.5 months of the season. So we're good on that one. Number 2, Georgia. Let me get this out of the way, Tyler, so that we can focus on Georgia. But the world's largest outdoor cocktail party took place this past Saturday, and it did not go in our favor. The score was Georgia 43, Florida 20. Again, that score is a little misleading as well, because outside of the, I will say, beautifully constructed opening drive by the Gators, after that, this game, it felt like Georgia was like, hey guys, what time was the game? And it's like 3:45, and they were like, oh, game's at 3:30. And they go, oh, it's not at 4? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. And then they kind of started playing. That's what it looked like to me. Questionable calls in terms of decisions I don't want to say decisions to go for it personally, in that fake whatever it was that Trevor Etienne was expected to do.
It is the Oregon situation where I was like, the decision to go for it, I'm honestly fine with. I was just like, 4th and inches, we kind of got hosed on the whole like third, that not being the third down seemed ridiculous to me, but it's 4th and inches, got a bad spot. Still, you could fall forward that much. Why are you getting cute there? Like, I really like the play call to be used in a different situation where you're trying to fake them to just fall forward.
Yeah, wrong play design for the situation.
My only thing to really say from the Florida perspective here is that I was angry as a Florida fan. And then I just transitioned as the game went on to be not angry anymore. Because like originally I was angry as like, we're in this game and we are shooting ourselves in the foot. And that is not a sad thing to me. That is an angering thing to me. That is an annoying. However, as the game went on, you're like, okay, yeah, we were never really going to win this game. Like,
I feel like that opening drive,
and that becomes more of like, oh, this is sad, but it's more of what we knew is the case, is that like Florida's getting better, getting more talented, and they ain't anywhere close to where Georgia is yet.
Yep.
And that's
completely agree. And speaking of where Georgia is, the number 2 team ranked in the country, too high, too low, just right. What are your thoughts?
Just right.
I agree.
I mean, especially now, it's now that they're rounding into form. Now that Carson Beck has like really shown like he can really lead them from a passing perspective. They were very versatile on offense against Florida. It is not to say that Brock Bowers, like, it's one of those things. This always happens when the star player goes out and they have to spread the ball out more. They're like, oh, are they better without him? It's like, no, there's no world where Georgia's better without the best player in the country. There's no world. However, it has provided an opportunity for Carson Beck to step up in a way that he pretty much didn't need to, because he'd be like, where's 19? But now they're running more of and they're doing a good job. So
I agree.
They're good.
Now, I also would have been okay if they were dropped a little bit lower behind the team at number 3, which are the Michigan Wolverines. But I don't know. I didn't watch the college football playoff show where the current president or commissioner, whatever the title is of the person in charge of the college football playoff, explains to Reese Davis why they did what they did. So I don't know if this was addressed, but I would be very curious to know, Did the committee take into account the news of the Michigan sign stealing scandal from this past week? They were on a bye, so they did. I would say they did not win their bye week, considering everything that came up.
Is this historically the most someone has ever lost their bye week?
It might be historically the most someone's lost their bye week, because this is.
I can't think of a worse situation.
So if you're unaware of what happened, Michigan has been dominating all season long, and over the bye week, over the course of the last week, maybe week and a half, news has come out in terms of a very elaborate sign stealing scandal. And if you are a person who, like me in ways, believes that stealing signs of your opponents in baseball or in football or any sport where there's kind of any kind of communication that's nonverbal, if you think that that is just part of the game and that is a skill of the game, like I personally in soccer, people complain about in basketball and soccer, the flopping. To me, that is a skill. To me, the art of flopping is something that is learned and you can master in soccer and basketball. Sorry, hate me for it. But that is also kind of a belief that I have in terms of stealing signs. Now, where we draw the line and where it gets ethically wrong and there's an issue, in my opinion, is when you have a situation like the Houston Astros did back in 2018, 19, whatever it was, where they're using technology to do that. And this is where that issue comes into play. A Michigan staffer who says that they are unaffiliated, and Harbaugh has come out and said he did not know of it, despite there being photos of that staffer on the sideline at Michigan. Basically,
it's not like, it's not like these college football games are the most broadcasted, televised, so many angles, photo evidence, video evidence, of all these things.
And it's not like, a college football coach at a Power 5 school doesn't have probably just as much authority, if not more, than the Kings back in, the King of England time.
They're feudal lords. They are feudal lords. College football is a feudalism. Like I hope everybody knows that.
Exactly.
Right?
Quite literally. So they have a lot of power. I find it hard to believe Harbaugh didn't know, but I digress. And this isn't just like watching a game back on tape and trying to dissect it. This is someone going to these games. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in tickets and in expenses and hotels to get people into the games to record the sidelines so they could figure out what was happening. That's where I take an issue of it. That's where I believe that it's kind of crossed the line, similar to the Astros with the camera and the trash can stuff. What do you think about this sign stealing scandal? And do you think it affected the committee's perception of Michigan in their rankings?
I actually truly don't think it affected their.
Okay.
I mean, I truly don't think it really affected their the way they're going to place Michigan. Mm-hmm. I don't think it is because, and also it's not going to affect anything for Michigan this season. Joel Klatt went on the Herd with Colin Cowherd today and said something really great, which was that these things take so long. Like if Michigan got a notice of allegations tomorrow about this from the NCAA, they have 90 days to respond. Season's over by that point. Like, so this doesn't affect anything for their season right now. And I really don't think it's going to matter with the committee. Now, the way I feel about this whole sign stealing thing, I saw somebody on Twitter make this analogy, and it was I think it's the best way to sum up how I feel about it. This is like speeding.
That's an incredible analogy.
Like there's a speed limit. People routinely go 5, 10, even 15 miles over the speed limit. And everybody kind of gets away with it because you're kind of still in the realm. It's not worth, like, there's a whole thing where like it's not worth a cop even stopping you for going that far, that little over the speed limit.
Especially when you're in a group of there's 15 cars around you.
And you're watching the flow of traffic. Yep. This is going 90 and a 35.
Yes.
Like this, yeah, everybody I do kind of accept that sign stealing. I think that word is very
not the phrase itself.
The phrase is very you shouldn't do that. But that idea of trying to figure out your opponent's way of communicating to understand it better at its very baseline is an integral part, I think, of any sport.
I agree.
So it's just like most teams do embark in a 5, 10, 15. Because I could hear the argument of how is that any different than just watching film? Are you going to tell me I can't watch what they did on a different day? Is that not any different? It is different, but it's a slippery slope. But this is like paying a person thousands of dollars to do this. There's also the added wrinkle to it that like there's a rumor that they gave South Carolina, who was going to be facing two teams that Michigan might have had to face in the playoff.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
I have to bring
knew
it up.
you were going to bring this up.
This is actually in service to a greater point, but I am going to bring this up. That Shane Beamer, like, there's a rumor that's like, oh, they know that they've given some other teams the information they had. South Carolina played two different teams that had a chance to go to the playoff last year, and high-profile, high-recruited teams. South Carolina miraculously upset both of them.
Yeah.
That would be Tennessee and Clemson.
And who was the quarterback in those games, Tyler?
That's irrelevant.
No. It's pretty relevant. It's pretty
It's a
relevant.
rattler. I truly don't think this has anything to do with like my opinion of Spencer Rattler. Like,
No, I agree with you on that. It's just this is your.
It's hilarious though.
This is your Notre Dame bit. Your version of the Notre Dame bit.
It's too bad. It's going to die.
We're going to
after
be making
this.
Spencer Rattler jokes for decades. I
Oh,
hope you're ready.
I'm never going to let it go. No, but which makes the funniest thing to me, because apparently also rumored in the list of all these teams that they scouted, TCU was not one of them, which makes TCU beating them even better in my opinion.
That's the best.
I worried that it would rob it. In all honesty, it's made it better.
It's fantastic. And on top of that, it's the best thing about TCU where they were like, oh, yeah, we knew. And we just decided to mess with them. Like, yeah, we knew.
Yeah, we knew.
Beat them.
Well, that's why it's just like, wow, JJ McCarthy looks like really weird today. Like he's throwing the ball in ways that he usually doesn't. And TCU just like seems to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like this is like Mike Leach leaving the play sheet out for Red River. Pre-game levels of like
RIP to the Pirate,
RIP the King. No, I like your analogy. I just need to bring that up. I needed to bring that up. I had to get it off my soul. I don't think
the speeding thing.
Yeah,
the speeding analogy. I think whoever it was on Twitter, I think is the perfect analogy there. Where yes, everyone is doing it.
There needs to be a rule. It needs to exist, and it's a rule that everybody knows people are going to kind of break.
Mm-hmm. I'd be curious to see if the NCAA, the kangaroo court that is the NCAA, decides to do something and make an example of them in the future. We're going to hear about this in 6, 8, 10, 12 months. And by then, Harbaugh might even be in the NFL again. So who knows?
Hey, the Raiders just opened up.
Devontae Adams, a wide receiver. Yes, sir. All that to be said, I do believe that Michigan is properly rated at 3.
I do,
irrespective of this stuff that's happening. I might have put them at 2, to be honest.
I could have seen an argument for 1 for all 3 of these teams. Michigan has looked the best. Georgia has the pedigree. Ohio State has the wins, and it has been shown that the committee values the wins over high quality teams.
Yes,
at the most.
I'm going to go ahead and do some editorializing here. These 3 teams we just talked about, to me, are the clear 3 best teams. Put them in whatever order you want. They're the 3 best teams of the country. There's then a small gap, and then we're going to have this next group, Tyler. So I'm going to give you the names. We'll go back in a second and rank them, and then quickly talk about their games. FSU comes in at 4, Washington at 5, Oregon at 6. That's like the next group, in my opinion. Those to me are the top 6 teams in the country. Florida State beat Wake Forest 41-16 this week. That was routine. Washington beat Stanford 42-33. That was relatively routine. It seems like Washington is slipping up a bit, but not like enough where I'm too concerned. And then Oregon beat Utah 35-6. I picked Utah in that game. That was one of our 5 wides.
Never had a chance.
You picked Oregon. You get the point on that one. And wow, I had a lot of faith in Utah. I loved coming out of that USC game, but man, was that a statement win by Oregon? Like clearly one of the best teams in the country in terms of performance. You just can't put them in that upper tier because they did lose that game to Washington. So you can't do that.
Line them up today. I think Oregon is better than both Florida State and Washington.
Agreed.
Florida State's undefeated, so they're not going to put those 2 teams ahead of them. And Washington did beat Oregon.
Head to head.
Washington has had like a struggle of the last 2 games. I still think like Oregon. I think if you're Washington, you really got to hope that if you make the Pac-12 championship, that you're playing somebody that's not Oregon, because I wouldn't want to face Oregon again.
Agreed.
And But both these teams have a shot. Like they're both good. They both have a shot. So
But you like that order, 4, 5, 6. That's what
yeah, I mean it makes sense to me. Like
me too.
I know
That's how I would have put it.
Florida State's in this weird spot of like they're an undefeated Power 5 who is very clearly, I think, the front runner in their conference, and in all likelihood will go undefeated. Maybe take a loss, but like
right. And this is a situation where
but
they
they
playing.
They have not looked as good as the 3 teams ahead of them.
Correct.
And they haven't really played a lot of their toughest opponents yet. They haven't played Miami. They haven't played North Carolina. They did play Clemson, and that took them to overtime. But Clemson is kind of
about that.
Talented, but they're not.
Talk about that in a bit, my friend. Like, oh boy.
so it's this whole thing of like they're in the ACC, and if they win it, they'll get in. Like that. Yeah. That if they win it at 11-1, they'll get in. If they win it at 13-0, they'll get in. But it's one of those like, okay, they haven't really played anyone. Not in a we can't consider you for this, but in a we don't know what you are compared to these people.
Right, but also in those games that they've won, they have been very clearly the better team in each game and have had moments of just, all right, we're going to dominate for a bit. If just in moments.
Well, Florida game has only Florida State's. I'm weird. I'm about to say Florida State's only played 2 types of games, and this is actually the 2 types of games that exist, which is blowouts and close games. I realize they've either been completely dominant, start to finish, or have been really dragged down into the mud and pulled it out.
Mm-hmm. And
dragged out into the mud is one of those things where it's like it's not that they're frauds. It's just that this is their first season really like learning how to win at this level. So it's one of those like the other 3 teams have been here before. We know that they can do this. It's just how good are they this year?
But you know what's important about those 2 types of games, Tyler? They won all of them.
Oh yeah, they're undefeated.
They won.
So
can't even argue there.
We have to respect it.
Let's move forward to round out the top 10. Texas at 7, Alabama at 8, Oklahoma at 9, Ole Miss at 10. I'm going to actually go a little out of order here in terms of the scores. Kansas 38, Oklahoma 33. We both picked Oklahoma. Neither of us get points on that. That was a 5-wide game. In my opinion, if Oklahoma doesn't lose this game, they are not only ahead of Alabama and Texas, they're at 4, in my opinion. That was a massive game to lose for the Sooners. And it doesn't affect it does affect, but it doesn't severely impact their conference championship games. They could win the conference, finish with 1 loss, and Washington and Oregon, we can forecast, are probably going to take each other out. If Oklahoma does that, then Texas, they will have beaten Texas on the way there. So that will have taken care of that. And then they basically have to hope that an Ohio State or Michigan loser, Georgia takes care of Alabama. There's a path for Oklahoma to make the playoff, is what I'm saying. And it's not completely out of the question. So this is one of those, they're here for now. We'll see how that goes. That loss to Kansas was big, though.
Crazy is that this year losing to Kansas, absolutely no shame.
You mean top 25 ranked Kansas, baby?
Top 25 ranked Kansas.
I'm so sorry, I buried the lead of this podcast. Kansas is in the initial CFP rankings, ladies and gentlemen. That should have been the lead. I apologize.
Yeah, we got to evaluate. We got to read.
Nation, I'm so sorry. Let's ride.
Rock chalk, baby.
Rock chalk, baby. And then Texas did beat BYU 35-6. Alabama was on a bye, and then Ole Miss beat Vandy 33-7. Those were expected, taken care of, all that kind of stuff.
Top 10 Ole Miss.
Top 10 Ole Miss. I think it's that road win over
LSU.
It was a home
game, but
still,
but it's a big
win over LSU.
Yeah,
kind of gives them there. Let's move forward. We'll go the next 5. We'll go quickly here so we can get to other things. Penn State 33, Indiana 24 at number 11. That was a quicker game. That was a closer game, than people anticipate. The opposite of last week's Penn State performance, right? Where Penn State was a 1-score game, but they were very clearly dominated by Ohio State. In this one, it was a 1-score game, but Penn State was always in control. It was just kind of that 1 score.
Yeah.
The next few, Tyler, let's see if we like these rankings. Missouri at 12. Missouri
I can't
at 12.
Can't argue with it.
I can't either. And then another shocker, Louisville at 13, who beat Duke 23-0. That was a 5-wide game. You got the point on that one because you picked Louisville. I picked Duke. I got the same amount of points as Duke, and that was 0. So LSU comes in at 14. They were off last week, and Notre Dame dominated Pitt 58-7 to come in at 15. That 11-15, what are you thinking there in terms of how it's organized?
Well, let's what to think of here. I
Yeah.
honestly might swap Louisville and Missouri, but that'd be probably it. And I'm interested that LSU is placed below Missouri, even though LSU beat Missouri. They are a 2-loss team, but their losses are to the number 4 team and to the number 10 team. And
Yeah.
now, that being said, they are too. It's inconsequential in my opinion.
Hmm.
Notre Dame, and I've heard this said multiple times on different podcasts,
They should
different
join a
talk
conference.
shows.
That's what you've heard. You've heard that multiple
Yes,
times.
well, I've heard that for years. And
You will
this
continue, my friend.
it is the official standpoint of Sideline Judgment Podcast.
Can
No,
I
but
can I pause you for a second? I'm so sorry, but I wanted to mention something, and Notre Dame reminded me. Back when I talked about FSU, the FSU AD told the Athletic, or they announced or something. I read it in the Athletic that being independent is, quote, not a true option. And I just want to laugh because FSU's the ACC's TV rights deal runs till 2036. Ladies and gentlemen, 13 years from now. Okay. My friend had a child last month. That child will be in middle school by the time that this ACC rights expires. So the fact that
dog,
they're
she
out
might
here
be in high
talking,
school.
she might be in high school, to be honest. That is insane and hilarious. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that it was in the rundown. Please continue, Tyler. Something that you have been hearing about Notre Dame is
Uh, this is the last year of the 14 playoff format, and Notre Dame just has got to be kicking themselves that they missed it by a year, because they're not stiff in the playoff this year. But in a 12 team, they get in and they do well. Like, well, theoretically, but
Mhm.
it's weird. I've heard this talked about where it was like, and I kind of feel it this year, and maybe this is good for the sport because it's rounding into this shape. This feels like a good year for a 12-team playoff format. Like,
yes.
there are some years where I'm like, why would that? What would even be the point of that? We
Mhm.
14 playoff is really just a 2-team playoff. Like,
Yeah.
but this year, I'm really feeling like I want to see a lot of these teams face each other because there's a lot of really good teams. The transfer portal and NIL have created a lot of parity in college football. And yeah,
No, I
so
completely agree. And I want to echo that statement by saying, just like there are years where a 12-team playoff would be oh so great, there will also be years where we will be looking at a 12-team playoff and go, oh, do we really need to see these quarterfinal games? That is not a reason
oh
to
yeah,
just completely throw out the idea, because the idea is to make games competitive at the end of the season instead of just having the same few big name brands. I mean, we just had the conversation. We said the top 3 pretty much locked in terms of best teams. Then there's 2 or 3 teams debating there for the 4th spot. We would be having a conversation about Missouri right now. We'd be having a conversation about Oregon State at 16 potentially making the playoff. Tennessee at 17, seeing if they can jump in. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
just want to point that out. We'll continue forward. The next 5, as I said, Oregon State at 16. They would have been higher, but they did lose to Arizona 27-24 this week. Then we have Tennessee, who beat Kentucky 33-17. Utah at 18, the aforementioned Oregon game that they lost. UCLA 28, Colorado 16. The Bruins come in at number 19, ahead of their crosstown rival, USC Trojans, who snuck out a victory 50-49 against Cal. Before I make an Alex Grinch joke, Tyler, what do you think of numbers 16-20?
I am living in a city with 2 top 20 college football teams, baby. No, I think that I don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine.
I agree.
There's a lot of respect shown here. I mean, there's a lot of Pac-12 teams ranked, which I really appreciate. Like,
So yeah, that was something so listeners, peek behind the curtain. When I put together the rundown, especially this week, I put the college football playoff rankings first, then I add the games to that, and then when we get to our Around the Nation segment, Around the Nation is all the games we haven't talked about already. For the Pac-12, there was only one game to put, Tyler, because every other game involved a team that ended up ranked in the top 25 college football playoff. That's how deep the conference is. Really good.
It.
Our final 5, Tyler, number 21, Kansas, the aforementioned Oklahoma game, 38-33. They won that one. Then we have Oklahoma State at 22, who beat Cincinnati 45-13. Kansas State at 23, who beat Houston 41-0. Dana Holgerson, hot seat alert. Tulane beat Rice 30-28. Tyler and I both got the points on that one, just barely. Tulane also has the distinction of being the highest ranked group of 5 team at the moment, but Air Force at 25 is giving them a run for their money after beating Colorado State 30-13. Tyler, I'm pretty good with that ranking. In my opinion, I would like to see Air Force above Tulane just in terms of the way that they've been playing this year. And to be honest, I kind of would put Kansas State at 25. And then I want to have a conversation about Oklahoma State and how we kind of wrote them off a little too early this year because they are turning it around. We will talk about that when we get to Bedlam, which is this week. But it's an interesting conversation to have, just want to say.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, amazing. Kansas ranked 21. Can't talk about it enough. Oklahoma State, we definitely did write off too early after the loss to South Alabama.
Yes.
Because it's a good Mike Gundy year. And
in our defense, the phrase "the loss to South Alabama" kind of was
I mean, it
reason
kind of
enough.
does it for. I don't have any shame in it.
Yeah.
Kansas State rounding into form. That loss to Missouri doesn't look bad, and I could see Tulane's honestly interesting to me because Tulane, I think, has not been as good as they could be. Because Michael Pratt's been injured. He hasn't played some of the games. They lost to Ole Miss because he didn't play, but they were really close anyway. Air Force looks legit. But I think them being a service academy is in this format working against them. You know?
Yeah, I can see that.
And I'm glad that they're being recognized either way because they're awesome.
Yes, completely agree. Completely agree.
Yeah.
That rounds out the college football playoff rankings, Tyler. Just to recap the 5 wide that all took place within that, we had Kansas 38, Oklahoma 33, Oregon 35, Utah 6. Tyler got the point on that one. Louisville 23, Duke 0. Tyler got the point on that one again. Tulane 30, Rice 28. We both get the points there. And Ohio State 24, Wisconsin 10. We both got the points there. I'm going to hold off on 2 point because they are in our next Around the Nation segment. But I will say the total score to date, Sergio 47, Tyler 43. I am officially paying attention, Tyler. All right. you had what's the phrase? I
had your curiosity.
But you officially have my attention, correct? Yes. That is the move right there. So close goings here. We'll talk about the 5 wide games in a little bit. Let's go ahead and finish off the Around the Nation segment. As I stated before, the only non-Pac-12 game that wasn't in the top 25 is Arizona State 38, Washington State 17.
Boy,
Poor
what
Washington
happened
State,
to Washington State, man? What happened to them?
I know. So sad, too. We were really rooting for them. And then this Oregon State loss this week really just wasn't good for us. You know what I mean?
No,
the Arizona schools just sticking a dagger.
That is the flip side of this is that there's a very interesting conversation to be had. We've kind of had it a little bit. Both the Arizona schools are doing a lot better than I think anyone gave them credit to be able to do. And it's trending in the right direction for them as they enter the Big 12.
It seems like those new coaches that they hired that had a big focus on local talent, local area, and building up programs by taking their time, it seems to be paying off for them because Arizona has a quarterback, full stop.
Oh, for
has
sure.
a quarterback. And Arizona State is playing really well coached despite the fact that they're not going to be able to participate in the postseason and all that. It is interesting. The Pac-12 standings there, Arizona's 5-3, which is fantastic. I know Arizona State's only 2-6, and they wouldn't even be eligible for a bowl, not likely at least. I don't see them winning out, but still, it's the principle there. In the Pac-12 standings there, still Washington up at 5-0, 8 in the conference, 8-0 overall. USC's 5-1 in the conference, behind Oregon at 4-1. That's going to take care of itself. And then it's looking like Oregon State and Utah have kind of distanced themselves a bit. So it seems like Washington is going to need a USC upset of Oregon in order to avoid that rematch. But for the sake of us,
they gotta beat USC this week.
They got to beat USC this week. That is very true. I was going to say, though, for the sake of us, I hope that we do get that rematch because that was
I think
game of the year so far.
As much as it would be better, I think, for Washington. It's insane to say this. It would be better, I think, for Washington to face USC twice than to face Oregon twice. It's not too crazy because Of all
Alex
of them,
Grinch is the defensive coordinator at USC.
yeah, USC is the worst team in Oregon.
Michael Penix Jr. can
But-
dissect him.
But in reality, it's like we want the best game. We want both
Yeah.
these guys coming in with a chance. Winner goes to the playoff. Like
Yeah.
that is the best option. Like,
Of course. If I was a Washington fan, a Washington alum, I would want to destroy USC this week. But then after that, I would be the biggest Caleb Williams supporter on earth, hoping for a Heisman miracle type performance. Let's head over back to our territory roots, which is over on the East Coast. We're going to go the ACC first before we go to the Sun Belt. The ACC has announced their scheduling model for the 17-team league. 17, did I write that wrong? Aren't there 8? Oh, Notre Dame's not in football. I just completely forgot about that. Sorry, I thought I had a typo.
your commitment to this bit is outstanding.
My commitment to this bit is almost as good as Notre Dame's commitment to their entitlement. It's really a thing to see, to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm
if
impressed.
there's one thing you should always be, it is committed to the bit.
Absolutely. The scheduling model for that 17-team league, each team will still play their 8 regular season conference games. All 17 teams will play each other at least twice in a 7-year span. Improvement, in my opinion. There are 16 annual protected matchups that are guaranteed for the next 7 years. And there's a whole bunch of, there's obviously 16 of them. I'm not going to read through them all, but just know that each team's biggest rivals are protected. We're still getting North Carolina Duke. We're still getting Florida State Miami. We're still getting even Clemson Florida State. We're still getting Virginia Tech. Like, don't worry, the big time rival ACC games will be protected. So there's that. Wanted to say that, let that know. That differs from the Big 12's announcement earlier this week as well, but we'll get to that in a second. The other teams that participated in this week of games, NC State 24, Clemson 17. Clemson is 4-4, Tyler. And this week, Dabo Swinney was on his radio show and someone called in and basically was like, hey man, you make $11 million a year. What's up with the 500 record, my dude? And Dabo Swinney...
Did you listen to the whole interview, like the whole?
I didn't hear the whole interview. I heard the end of the question, and I heard Dabo's like, you know what? This is just, I don't need to be berated, like that little thing.
Look, I'm not. I know this will be controversial. I'm kind of on Dabo's side on this one.
So I read a lot of things this week where it was like, should Dabo have reacted in the way he did? No. But did he make some points? Yes. There was one point where I think the transcript, because I didn't hear the whole call, but the transcript said that Dabo was like, Clemson was basically like mediocre until I got here and won national titles. And to be honest, if someone was coming
He's
at
right.
me for being like, they're coming at me for being like, why are you 500 this one season and you make $11 million? I'd be like, for the ring, my guy. That's why I get paid $11 million.
I think Dabo said something great. I don't think it was in there, but it was later. It was just like, he went Old Testament on me, so I went Old Testament back on him. And I was just like,
that is an incredible analogy, Dabo.
I understand. I understand the frustration. You should have just asked, we paying you this many millions of dollars to go 4-4? You should have just said those words. But this guy tried to get all like, fellow Tyler, what are you doing, by the way?
Yeah, he did come after him
misrepresenting the brand.
He did come after him a little bit. Like, I will say that. But part of the $11 million, Dabo, is to be able to handle yourself in a way where you deal with the Tylers that don't represent the Tylers that we know. You know what I mean? Like, that's you got to know how to handle that. So I think that is a sign. Here. I think that's a sign of the frustrations inside of the Clemson football program right now, more so than anything else, you know?
Yeah.
So, interesting.
I think this is just one of those situations. And in a little bit of a Clemson talk here is that this is another one of the situations where Clemson is going to have to learn to reinvent itself, which Dabo did successfily, which got him to national championships.
Well, but here's the thing, Tyler.
He's one of the few coaches who's done it.
I agree. But the thing with that is that the reinvention that Dabo once had was a schematic reinvention. The reinvention that he probably needs to do now is a philosophical reinvention. I don't think that it is the same to ask someone to schematically change an offense or a defensive scheme. I don't think that's on the same level as asking Dabo to be like, you need to start taking in transfers, because that goes against his like moral philosophical drive. And as we know, he's a very faith driven man. And once again, that is not a bad thing. I think that is something to admire about Dabo. But I do think that when it is getting it to the point where he's being so stubborn with that philosophy about wanting to just build in the program the way, that's not college football anymore. So I think this is a situation where, similar to Jimbo, I think the time, Dabo's era, I think, has passed him on. I still believe that he has the ability to reinvent himself. It's if he wants to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
And I do agree. It is a harder thing to change how you philosophically view the game.
Yeah.
That
would be a lot of growth. A lot of growth on a personal level as well.
I mean, in a lot of ways, this is
I don't
the
know
season
personally, but just,
yeah, in a lot of ways, this is the season they need to get that happening, because going 10-2, like they had been doing, or like 9-3, which is a really good, but not national championship level, is one of those like, oh, we're so close.
Yeah,
you're 4-4 right now.
They're fighting for bowl eligibility.
They're fighting for bowl eligibility, and
not to spoil the potential 2-point choices, but they got Notre Dame coming into town, so not gonna be easier.
So it's one of those things where this might be what he needs, and it's just like, yeah, it would be much more difficult for him to do that philosophically. However, I still want to give credit where credit is due. We talk a lot about how coaches, it's so hard for coaches to reinvent themselves. They like consistently choose not to do it. It's the whole reason Dan Mullen failed at Florida, in my opinion. Whole reason is that he wouldn't change what he wanted to do. Dabo has already done that. He's one of the few who successfully did that. And like you saw, we have to give like Brian Kelly in a similar way a lot of credit for this, is that Brian Kelly, to his credit, continues to do that when needed to, which is the thing that we consistently see other coaches not do. So I'm gonna give him a little bit of credit here. Yeah, but above all else, please, people, go find the interview and watch it. It's so funny.
Yeah, it was funny what I heard.
It's so funny. Yeah.
Let's move forward, Tyler. Quickly, the other games.
Also, credit to NC State for winning.
Yeah, exactly. And did you the super short side note, but Steve Smith was on game day, and he basically made a joke when he made the pick. He was like, NC State's a basketball school. I'm going to go with Clemson. And after the game, Dave Dorian, the coach of NC State, was like, yeah, it seems like we're not that much of a basketball school anymore, huh? We're a football school too. And it's like, okay, I like when coaches, puff their chest out and talk back into the talking heads. I like it. I'm a fan. Miami 29, Virginia 26 in overtime. Virginia Tech 38, Syracuse 10. That was played last Thursday night. And Boston College 21, UConn 14. In the ACC, FSU sitting the top 6-0 in the conference. Louisville 4-1 in the conference, looking good. And Virginia Tech 3-1 in the conference, sitting in third place at the moment with a 4-4 record overall. Pretty insane, especially since UNC 6-2, Duke is 5-3, Miami 6-2. The issue there is that all three of those teams have lost 2 ACC games. So interesting to see how we get there. It might be an FSU Louisville conference title game. Going to be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
To the Big 12 we go. They also announced a new scheduling model, but this is just up until 2027, starting next year in 24. The Big 12 will not have divisions or pod scheduling. Each team will continue their 9 regular season conference games. The 9 regular season conference games will include each team playing each other at least once, home and away, over the course of 4 years, which is what every college football fan has been asking for. The Big 12 is finally the first one to say, we are guaranteeing that if you stay for 4 years of your eligibility, you will play every single conference member twice, once on the road and once at home, which is what we here at Sideline Judgment believe scheduling should be like. So nice of the Big 12 to take initiative and do that first. They have only protected, though, with that comes some sacrifice, Tyler, because they have only protected 4 rivalry games that will be played every year. Those 4 games, in my opinion, are the 4 games I think they got right. First is Arizona State, Baylor, TCU, BYU, Utah. Thank the Lord we kept the whole.
Gosh,
just a sigh of relief from the Sideline Judgment HQ.
That was the one I wanted the most.
Me too. Needed it.
That and the Arizona's one, because the Arizona's one is a want. Holy War is a need. Like,
the territory war or territory battle. I don't know what the
who knows.
Whatever. Territory Cup. I don't know. Whatever it is fun. But in my opinion, the Holy War is going to replace Red River as the preeminent rivalry in this conference. Personally, I do believe that to be true. And then the last one is the Sunflower State Showdown, I believe, and it's Kansas State. By only having those 4 protected matchups, the Big 12 teams will complete the entire 15 team cycle in a shorter period, that 4 years we talked about. And then once again, I think one of the most important things, and probably the underrated thing in this announcement, the scheduling model was developed to prioritize geography, historic matchups and rivalries, and competitive balance. I can't read today. And was set up to balance annual travel by distance and time zone. So, in my opinion, I think it's right. The Big 12 is now going to be super expanded. We're literally
it's going to be all over the place. Like
Arizona to Florida to West Virginia.
Playing a conference game between the teams in Orlando and Tucson is insane to me.
It's absurd. I know. But they will be able to do that regularly. I think that is a good decision. In my opinion, the Big 12 is going to be my favorite conference to watch in the new era of college football because of how vast it is. And honestly, because of the schedule announcement. Because to me, the fact that we are going to have, while teams may not play every single year like they have in the past, like Iowa State and Kansas, for example, have played like every year since like 1910 or something like that. That obviously won't happen anymore, but they will play 3 of the next 4 years. So like there is enough of competition for this to still be a rivalry. But I think those 4 rivalries they got right were the right ones. And if you notice, they're all in state. The Arizona's, Texas schools, the Utah schools, and the Kansas schools. So there is some geographical identity tied to those rivalry games, which to me is probably, when you have a conference that spans from Arizona to Florida to West Virginia, you need something that can give you geographical rivalry, geographical presence. And those rivalries make it that way. So I like it a lot. All that to be said, Deion Sanders and Colorado are coming to Orlando next year, and that might be my trip to the bounce house. Just saying.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Just to for the
they
fun,
have just disappeared from the national radar in the last couple of weeks.
I mean,
rightfully so. I mean, they're not good.
You don't blow a 29-point lead to Stanford and then lose your next 2 games and then get to be in the 60 minutes time slot. Like
I still firmly believe that this is the worst they're going to be.
Agreed. Completely agree.
So I really don't have a problem.
Deion's a great coach. They got great skill position players. They just need to beef up the lines.
They're learning a lot of lessons.
Agreed. The other games in this conference, West Virginia 41, UCF 28. That was Tyler's 2-point.
I'm done. I'll never believe in you again, UCF. I put my neck out for you. But like, no, they aren't going to go completely defeated in conference play, because that would be so funny. It's like, but that's not going to happen, because even though Neil Brown is saving his job, and apparently Dana Holgerson's for
crazy statement, but yes,
it's like they're not. They're going to the bounce house. John Rice Plumlee's back. Like, this team's explosive. They can beat West Virginia. Nothing.
I sent the picture that UCF's Twitter tweeted with the Twitter account put out with the conference home and away games for the next 4 years that the Big 12 put out for UCF. And I sent it to my group chat with my UCF friends. And I said, hey, UCF hosting Colorado. Oh, they're hosting Utah next year too. That might be the road game too. That'll be my vote in the group chat. I do think I'll be outvoted because I think my friends will want to go see prime Deion Sanders. But personally, I would rather go see Utah. But I sent it, and the response from my buddy Matt, who just had the kid and big UCF fan, goes, we're going to need more than 2 4-stars to commit if we're going to have any chance of being any good next year. Just so you can see what the UCF fan base is at right now.
Hey, the things they should do, amendment to the Big 12's whole new scheduling model. There's a rivalry that they have not been protecting. They need to protect the Cincinnati UCF. We are irrelevant in this new conference rivalry.
You're so petty. You're so petty.
Listeners, you can't see it, but I'm smiling.
Very smiling with
my mustache.
was gonna say with a lovely new mustache. I haven't
No,
told
thank
you.
Thank you.
Recording for 46 minutes and on the
Trying
call for
something
over an
new.
hour. My fault, my man. I'm sorry.
Trying something
It's a nice
new.
mustache. I like it.
Thank you.
It's not my Halloween
I feel
costume Travis
salty.
Kelsey mustache, but it is.
No,
It
it
is
is
a
not.
nice.
All right now.
All right now. All right, moving forward. Iowa State 30, Baylor 18. Those were
Let's
the
go.
two Big 12 games. There you go.
Let's
Welcome
go.
back, Tyler. Welcome back.
At Campbell. Again.
Welcome
I
back.
mean, we had doubters, but we're never wrong. We were just early.
Listen, according to
Or
the
late.
official Big 12 standings, Iowa State is currently in second place with a 4-1 conference
Oh,
record.
yeah.
Sitting ahead of Oklahoma State and Texas, based on head-to-heads and all that stuff. But look at you, Tyler.
Giving
Calm
me the
down.
vapors.
We're gonna need you. All right,
It is insane to me that there is a 5-way tie for first, though.
I also want to shout out to BYU, who have 2 conference wins and are they hold 2 of the 3.
Houston has one.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Houston has 1. UCF and Cincy are 0-5 in the conference. Just want to point it out. All right, I'm being petty. Let's go. Let's move
Look,
to.
it's fine. It's okay to feel. It's okay to feel some small bit of satisfaction in this, Sergio.
I got one more.
It's
I got
okay.
one more. I got one more in me. Are you ready? Let's go to the true Power 5 conference, the SEC. Texas. Sorry. Oh, thank God Alexa doesn't listen to this podcast. Texas A&M 30, Texas A&M 30, South Carolina 17, and Auburn 27, Mississippi State 13. It is what it is.
I have no takes.
Georgia sitting atop the East, Missouri right behind them. We'll talk about that in a second. And then in the West, Alabama is still in first place, undefeated in the conference. They still have
the picture of this division could really change this week.
Still have yet to play LSU, which we'll also talk about in a bit. So we'll go past that. In the Big Ten, Tyler, Iowa fans.
Yeah, no, none of these games matter. This is the important thing.
Okay, hold on. Let's get the minutia out of the way. Northwestern 33, Maryland 27. Maryland, what are you doing losing to Northwestern? Anyway, Minnesota 27, Michigan State 12, as expected. Nebraska 31, Purdue 14. Thank you, Matt Rule. I needed something. I believe in you. I needed this game. Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, you give me something, man.
Dude, I've been talking about how I love Matt Rule is going to change the program. Going to bring Nebraska. Oh my God, good Lord, thank you. All that to be said. And then the standings: Michigan and Ohio State. We know what's happening in the East, and then in the West is currently Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Nebraska, all 3-2 in the conference. It is what it is. It's a big
I truly don't know who will win.
Who knows? What I do know is that if Iowa was to make the conference championship game, it would be Brian Ferentz's final game as Iowa offensive coordinator, at least competitive, not including the bowl, because Iowa has announced that he will not be returning as offensive coordinator for next season. Tyler, thoughts, prayers for the Iowa faithful in a good way, not like we're sad for you. We're happy for you.
Oh,
guys.
yeah, no. Many blessings.
Did it on the bye week, announced it during the bye.
Evidently, this decision did not come from Kirk Ferentz. I mean, shocking. It come from their interim athletic director.
You mean to tell me Kirk Ferentz didn't fire his son during the bye week?
He's got like 2 more he can go to.
Kids or bye weeks?
Kids.
Thank you.
No, I was just in such an interesting position to me because
they're arguably the best defense in the country.
Arguably,
unironically, seriously,
it's so interesting to me because like Kirk Ferentz has so nailed the whole like develop homegrown talent. Like every year or two, like they have down years, but every 2-3 years you can reliably count on them to have one of, if not the best defense in the country, great special teams, and an offense that sometimes was good, but or at least serviceable. Mm-hmm. And it has just been the anchor weighing them down, like dragging them down for years. And I mean, to be fair, I saw this other stat. Absolutely none of the teams in the Big Ten West are close to hitting the Brian Ferentz like contract goal of like averaging 25 points per game. None of them are capable of doing that this year.
That's funny. That is funny.
So yeah, but no, evidently I think the interim athletic director made this happen. and I think Kirk Ferentz was not happy about it. It's very interesting because like there's an argument to be made that Kirk Ferentz, like, his time has come and they got to move on, but I'm also kind of like it's just you're living in this world where I wouldn't want to get rid of what Iowa successfully does, because Kirk Ferentz is responsible for that. Like, he's responsible for that defense. He's responsible for the talent. He's responsible. Like, they have multiple NFL players continue to cycle through there on the defensive side and go through, all of them from the state of Iowa. Like, and she's like, oh, just match him up with a good offensive coordinator. Are you going to get one in today's day and age when Kirk Ferentz is your head coach? I don't know. Like,
on top of that, like, yeah, I get it. Go get a good offensive coordinator. But once again, when Kirk Ferentz literally has complete control over that program, like, whoever he brings in, is he going to let that person run the offense? I mean, we just had the Dabo conversation.
He has his hands in this.
We just had the Dabo conversation where Dabo brings in a highly touted offensive coordinator, and then he straight up tells him, no, he's running the Clemson offense. Like, you don't think that Iowa, that
you have
Kirk
to use
Ferentz
the same play sheet, but you just get to decide which one. It was the order of the plays that was the problem. It wasn't the play. Like,
exactly. Like, anyway, but I don't know. I just don't see that happening. I understand the fans that would want to change Kirk Ferentz in that sense, but I also hear you, Tyler, where do you really want to give up that kind of consistency the way this program is? You are Iowa. You are not a Georgia. You are not a Bama.
Think about it. Think about this. Think about this, because they have had multiple seasons where they have won double-digit games, been excellent. There was that season they honestly could have made the playoff if they beat Michigan State that one year.
Didn't they win haven't they won the Big Ten?
I don't know. I don't know when the last time they won it is. I'm sure they have at some point.
Right.
But they were undefeated one year, but the thing is, like, in a 12-team playoff format, this could benefit them. Like, do you want to get rid of, like, I mean, I wouldn't want to face Iowa. Like, yeah, you could. You could probably outscore them. Like their offense is anemic and whatnot. But like they might ruin a team's playoff chances, and like they are the type of team that they've got such a trump card on one side of the ball that it's real that they can make runs. They're so dominant consistently, and so that's one of those things where it's like, oh, it is that. And I can't believe I'm saying this. Dabo Swinney talked about this in his rant about the.
I can't believe you're referencing that again.
It's like an expectation versus appreciation is what he said, where it's a matter of, like, there was an appreciation for what they've done. Now it has become an expectation that is lacking an appreciation. So there's this thing with Iowa where I was like, you are this good. Now, the question is, because you don't know, because Kirk Ferentz has been there for 20 years, literally. Could Iowa be better than this? Or is this the best they can be?
I get that. And what's the ceiling
ultimately
on this?
At some point, you're going to find out, because Kirk Ferentz is not immortal. Although if he was, I would not be surprised. At some point, you're going to find out the answer to this. If it's not the answer you're going to like, do you want to find that out now?
Yeah, I get that. Especially when he's been the person to lead you to 2 conference championship game appearances, which is one more than Penn State. So just want to point that out.
Won the conference.
Yes, but Iowa's made 2 conference championship games.
Fair.
I'm just pointing out the facts.
That blocked field goal changed the course of James Franklin's and Penn State's entire perception.
I know, right?
And like his just career there.
I know. Crazy. Crazy. This sport is wild.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for the Big Ten. And then we're just going to run through the Mountain West and the Sun and the American and the Sun Belt really quickly. Mountain West, Boise State 32, Wyoming 7. That was my 2-point. Wyoming,
they kicked their butts.
They got their butt. Yeah, Wyoming got their
Hey, that's Cowboys. They couldn't buck those Those Broncos bucked those Cowboys.
Those Broncos bucked those Cowboys. That was look at you. You watching Yellowstone?
Can you tell that I watched an episode of Yellowstone?
I was going to say. It's okay. That is just as many episodes as I have seen of Yellowstone. So, Nevada 34, New Mexico 24, Fresno State 31, UNLV 24, San Jose State 35, Hawaii nothing. Air Force still sits atop this conference, 5-0 in the conference, undefeated overall, ranked in the top 25 at number 25. And then Fresno, UNLV, and Boise, 3-0 in the conference. Fresno 7-1 overall, so they are holding, they're the better team per se. Boise moves to 4-4. Not only is bowl eligibility still on the table for Boise, but conference championship game appearance is still on the table. So
insane.
Crazy how the college football season works. So in the American, FAU beat Charlotte 38-16 on Friday night. We needed this one, man. We needed this game after the loss to UTSA, after the loss to the Roadrunners the week before. We needed this win. Elsewhere in the conference, SMU 69, Tulsa 10. Nice. Memphis 45, North Texas 42, and UTSA 41, ECU 27. Tulane still sits atop the American Athletic Conference standings, 7-1 overall, 4-0 undefeated, number 24 ranked team in the country. As it's excuse me. As stated before, they're the highest ranked G5 team, so they currently hold that slot. And then SMU and UTSA are both 4-0 in the conference. Memphis and FAU behind them at 3-1, so there is still an outside chance.
Mathematically, FAU has a chance.
Listen, we're sitting at 4-4. I have confidence that we will go bowling, which if you told me that last year after the way that season ended with Willie Taggart in charge, I would take it in a heartbeat. Prospective FAU fans. But Memphis and FAU, there's just one game back. So listen, could still happen for either one of those teams, but we're looking like it's going to be Tulane and either SMU or UTSA. We'll see what happens, hoping that FAU has an outside shot and Memphis does as well. And then wrapping it up in the Sun Belt, Georgia Southern 44, Georgia State 27. That was last Thursday night. Our James Madison Dukes, rank them and put them in the conference title game and put them in a bowl game. Because in my opinion, they would probably make the group of 5 representative for the New Year's 6 bowl games. In my opinion, I think they're the best group of 5 team this year, hands down. They beat Old Dominion 30-27. I know that was a crazy sentence to say immediately after saying I think they're the best group of 5 team, but I do think that James Madison, in-state rivalry game, close game, it happens. App State 48, Southern Miss 38. App State snuck that one out. We could have an App State conversation in the offseason, Tyler. Arkansas State 34, Louisiana Monroe 24, Louisiana 33, South Alabama 20, Coastal 34, Marshall 6. Grayson McCall got hurt in this game, and it seems like his Coastal career is over. Maybe his college career. I don't know how many years of eligibility he has left. And then Troy 31, Texas State 13. The Troy defense still in full effect. We're looking like we're going to go. It's looking like we're going to get a Georgia Southern Troy Sun Belt Championship game, and that's only because JMU isn't eligible because they're sitting at 5-0 in the conference.
It's just a shame. It's a real shame.
So dumb.
I mean, Troy's defense is legit. Just want to point that out.
Oh, I agree. And listen, that Thursday night game last week between Georgia Southern over Georgia State, that gave Georgia Southern first place. Well, second place, but it's first place to appear in the championship game over Georgia State. So that was a massive game for Georgia Southern to win. Big implications there. They're probably going to meet up with Troy, who are 3-1 in the conference, 6-2 overall. We'll see how that goes. Tyler, let's go ahead and talk about the games that will be happening this week. Let's move to week 10. Let's talk about these 5 wide games. We'll start off noon. Starting off at noon Eastern on ESPN, the number 23 ranked Kansas State Wildcats are heading to Austin to take on the number 7 ranked Texas Longhorns. Tyler, you are behind by 4 points on this one. We agreed before recording that you will go second for all 5 of these games, and you will have first choice on our 2-point picks.
It's very generous of you.
Listen, man. Listen, we decided, we've said this in the past. When we get to November, we got to have the person who is down. We got to make it interesting. We got to.
It's closer this year than it usually is.
I agree. It is closer this year. Although I am fumbling a lead. Like, I had a big lead. I'm fumbling the lead here. With that being said, I get to pick first on this one. I'm going to take Texas to beat Kansas State. Noon Eastern kickoff on ESPN. I know that Quinn Ewers is probably still out for this game. A lot of people talking, where's Archie Manning? I understand that, but it seems like, I forgot the backup's name, but he played relatively.
Malik Murphy.
Thank you, Malik Murphy. He played well last week, in my opinion. I just don't see them losing to Kansas State at home. That's really what this is. I think Texas and Oklahoma are on a path to rematching in the conference title game. So I'm just going to go by that consistency and what I think will happen, I'll take Texas.
All right. Interesting. So I'd say I watched a little bit of that game. I think Malik Murphy was fine, but and I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, they should play Arch Manning because I have absolutely no clue, and he's a true freshman, and
Right.
I mean he might not be ready.
And they also dominated BYU. Like,
yeah, but it's
a
like the first bit of the game, there were a lot. I mean, maybe it's just Malik Murphy's first time starting. Is that like a lot of turnovers on both sides? A lot of stuff. Their special teams and defense really came to play, but their offense was a little they really got to go in late, and that's good. Like they started to get it going, and it's Sarkisian. Like it's well designed plan, good offense. They're physical. Kansas State's rolling though, and I'm going to go with Kansas State on this one.
Look at you playing the game.
I'm going to go Kansas State on this one. I think that if Quinn Ewers was in, I probably would feel the same as you, where I'm like, as good as Kansas State is playing, I think there's just a collision path that Oklahoma and Texas are on, and Texas continues to play down and find ways to win, and then just really turn it on in some games, and the consistency is there, but because Kansas State has been rolling and has been so consistent, and on top of Texas's inconsistency, their high end is higher than pretty much anyone in their conference, even Oklahoma. But they've been a little inconsistent, and now they've lost their quarterback. And Malik Murphy is fine, but he adds more of a mobility aspect. But he's been, it's a tough thing to go against, and so I'm gonna go with Kansas State.
I understand that. Like, I'm not gonna go against that. I get that logic, and I kind of agree with you. This is more for me I metaphorically have a.
It would be more interesting. It would be more interesting for Texas to be in it to go to the playoff. To me, like
that's what I'm saying. I have a Texas will at least make the conference championship game ticket metaphorically, like, and I want that metaphorical bet to cash. Don't tell my brother, but I do want that bet to cash. It's okay. He'll be really happy with me this week. I'm going to wear an Oklahoma shirt on Saturday. I'm actually flying up tomorrow morning. Well, listeners, as you're listening to this, I'm probably in the air. I might be in the air as you listen to this Thursday morning. We're recording late Wednesday night. I'm going to get this up ASAP. I am heading to Virginia to watch the next game, Tyler. I'm going to go a little out of order here, but they're both at 3:30, so that's okay. The number 9 ranked Oklahoma Sooners are heading to Stillwater for what could be, Tyler, the last time in who knows when to take on the number 22 ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys. It is a 3:30 Eastern kickoff on ABC. It is a shame that this isn't the night game. I understand why it's not the night game. I understand why it's not the night game.
It fell in a bad week for it to be the night game.
No, when we talk about what's the night game on ABC, I understand why they did that. But on a personal level, this needs to be a night game. My brother actually he has a work thing in the early afternoon. So he said he was going to try to get home around 4:30-ish. So what we're doing is we are not going to watch the 3:30 slate of games until my brother gets home. We're going to record the game, and we're going to do it old school, no smartphones. Record it, watch it together as a family, because I'm flying up there to spend time with my family. We're going to watch it, the 4 of us. It's going to be a good time. And we'll probably catch up by like the third quarter because we're just going to fast forward as it goes. So like, it's not going to be that much of a delay, but the idea of no one tell me anything that's happening in the 3:30 slate because Diego's got to get home. We got to watch it together. I'm actually very excited for it. It's going to be a good time. With all of that being said, do you think in your right mind that I'm going to pick Oklahoma State to win this game?
No, not at all.
Because you would be just as delusional as the Notre Dame athletic director. All right. That is how delusional you would be if you think that I'm picking Oklahoma State. Give me a Boomer. Give me a Sooner. Give me a Dylan Gabriel revenge coming back, reestablishing himself game. Give me a do not forget who runs this state kind of game. I'm hoping for a blowout. I would love that to happen. I don't think that'll happen because I do think that Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State will put up a fight. But I am all in emotionally on this. I want nothing more than to see my brother happy with a victory this Saturday against his second biggest rival. Hey, my little brother gets to be big brother this Saturday. How about that? Huh? How about
Oh,
that?
that's pretty cute.
I'll take
Pretty
I'll
cute.
take the Sooners. Tyler, what about you?
Okay, so typically, um, anything can happen in Bedlam, which is that Oklahoma can win by a lot, Oklahoma can win by a little, or Oklahoma can win by like kind of a moderate amount. In Lincoln Riley's last year, Oklahoma lost, which hadn't been
Well,
seen.
clearly his head was not in the game.
We have found out.
Clearly.
And
That was also one of the better Oklahoma State teams in like a decade. That was
yeah,
the
100%.
that was the year with the incredible defense. Like, and yeah, that was a good year for them.
So yeah, it was the first time in 10 years that Oklahoma State had won. It was the first time in like 7 years. Previously for that, they'd won in 2011. Then you have to go back to 2003 where they had a 2-game win streak. Then you had to go back to 1997. And then, oh boy, wow, Oklahoma just really dominates
So they've
for the
won
entire 80s.
they've won 3 times in our lifetime, Tyler?
Pretty much.
And twice in my brother's because he was born in 98.
Well, it's more like 4 or 5. But
Okay, all right.
the all-time series is 91 for Oklahoma to 19 for Oklahoma State.
Oh my god.
There are 7 ties in there.
This is a rivalry? This is considered a rivalry? Good lord.
I gotta be honest, you can't even find really any. The longest win streak Oklahoma State has is oh boy, is a 3-game win streak.
Oh,
I want you to guess what it is.
I'm gonna guess. Oh, it. You know what? It's gonna be like. Is it the Schnellenberger years? No. Okay, because Schnellenberger had like what 2 seasons at Oklahoma and it did not go well. So I was thinking, so even Schnellenberger beat them.
They did lose. They did lose to Oklahoma State in the Schnellenberger years once.
Okay. All right. Well,
but only
that's
once.
probably why they fired him. And then I'm gonna guess
that game was 12-0. By the way,
what a pre-2000s college football score. I'm gonna guess, given my thesis was basically on college football national champions history, I'm gonna go the 70s in the era before what's that coach? Oh my gosh. Barry Switzer, yeah, before him. So I'm gonna say sometime in the 70s.
No, they won in the entirety of the 1970s. They won twice. Oklahoma State won twice. Okay. Once in 1972. And then once again in 1976, Barry Switzer was the coach of the team at that time.
Okay.
Cool. No, the 3-game win streak came in the 1930s.
So before, I was going to make a really insensitive joke, and I'm not going to do that.
Don't do it.
So before World War II.
Yes. Oklahoma State won in 1930, 7-0. They won in They did not play in 1931. They won in 1932, also 7-0, and then they won in 1933.
So what you're saying is
13-0.
So what you're saying is Oklahoma State beating Oklahoma 3 times in a row caused the Great Depression. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I
pretty much.
Okay, cool.
And then the next time they played, Oklahoma proceeded to win, I believe, 8 straight.
Nice.
Which is not the longest in this. So, okay, all this is a long way to say I actually do think that Oklahoma State is really good this year, and comparatively, and they have been churning out a really good running game. They've been playing well with Alan Bowman. I haven't watched them a lot recently. Oklahoma did. I think a large part of Oklahoma losing to Kansas, as great as Kansas is, their back quarterback is that Dylan Gabriel's arm was hurt. They shut down parts of the passing offense. Additionally, one of their defensive players, one of their defensive stars for Oklahoma, was out. I don't know if he'll be back. That being said, I can't go with Oklahoma State. You can't, in the last year, I can't do that.
Come on. Thank you. I'm so glad you came here. I didn't
can't
know
do
where
that.
you were going with that.
Me?
And I was smiling because I thought you were going to pick Oklahoma, but for a split second, I got nervous.
No, I can't do that. I'm not a fool.
Good. Let's pivot over to the other 3:30 game on 5 Wide. The CBS game of the week. Number 12 ranked Missouri Tigers are heading to Athens to take on the number 2 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. I'm going to pause real quick. Tyler, did you see the report that Florida, Georgia, for the 2 years that Jacksonville is going to renovate the Jaguar Stadium, it's going to go else. It'll come back after the stadium's renovated, of course, but similar to in the 90s, there was a rumor a couple years ago we talked about that maybe it would be a home and home between Florida and Georgia. They said that that's not going to happen. They're going to keep it neutral site. There's a rumor that the first year is going to be at Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta, and the second year is going to be at an NFL stadium in the state of Florida, and the options are Tampa, Raymond James, where the Bucks play, Orlando, where Camping World Stadium is, that hosts a lot of college football games, or Hard Rock Stadium in Miami.
Oh, boo!
You can't give me one. You get them every year. You can't give me one Florida Georgia here.
904 Duval.
Please get out of here.
Okay, I would give you that. I just
think we were partners, head of our divisions, 6-2.
I don't want to.
Franchise quarterbacks, incredibly offensive-minded head coaches, and you do this to me? Come on, man. Come on.
But the Canes rent that stadium.
They rent it. They don't own it. Jeez, Tyler. All that to say, Missouri taking on Georgia, 3:30.
I love you.
Picking first. I love you too, brother. I'm picking first here. Listen, I have been talking up Missouri all season long. I have been telling people, I've been saying, hey, this team's good. This team's good.
Do it.
A couple of games I watched more than I probably usually would have in the past. All that to be said, after watching what Georgia did to us and after watching what Georgia did without Brock Bowers, I don't think the Missouri defense can stop them enough to let the offense catch up. I think that there'll be points scored. Whatever the over is in this game, I will be taking the over, allegedly. No, not allegedly. I'll be in Virginia where it's legal. I'll be taking the over. But I just don't think the Missouri defense can contain the Georgia offense like I think the Georgia offense can get a few stops on the Missouri offense. I'm sorry. Georgia defense stops Missouri offense. There we go. Jeez. So that's why I'm taking Georgia. What about you, Tyler?
Okay. Well, first of all, you're a coward for how much you talked to Missouri.
Come on.
Good news. Good news. I am equally cowardly.
Okay.
Because I'm not picking. I'm picking Georgia. Are you kidding me? I personally, as a Florida fan, would love to see Missouri win this.
Me too.
I really would.
I hope we're wrong. I hope I'm
wrong so bad. But I cannot, in good faith, after what just happened to us, pick Missouri. As great as the season as they're having, Georgia's on another level, and they're rounding into form. And I'll be honest, I don't feel like this is a Georgia national championship year, which you could have said for every year until 2021. But they've earned the thing of like, oh, they're a favorite until they're not. And I'm going to still be honest, against the field, I would take the field over Georgia right now. But not in the SEC. They're getting out of the SEC, in my opinion.
We've had conversations about how the SEC is not the SEC that we grew up on. You know what I mean? Not this year, at least. And I think it to be said in regards to this game, the fact that your like evidence and your backing up for your pick is basically, I need to talk about the national championship implications, should tell us that we're pretty confident in them winning the conference games.
Again, just have to reiterate, nothing would make me more happy than Missouri winning. Truly.
Agreed. Let's head out west, Tyler, because the reason that Bedlam is not a night game is because we have the number 5 ranked Washington Huskies heading to South Carolina, heading to Southern California to take on the number 20 ranked USC Trojans. 7:30 Eastern kick on ABC in your backyard, Tyler. This would, if there was a game for you to go, for you to be able to push the agenda, this might be the one, my friend. I'm not pressuring you, but like just saying it would be cool.
I don't have any money right now.
In a perfect world,
I'd be there.
In a perfect world, I would want to fly out and watch this game with you.
You're damn
like,
right.
This would be in a perfect world. But anyway,
God, I want to go to a USC game so bad.
Wait till they get a defense.
Unfortunately, the strike.
That's very true. Listen. And let's hope the actors
have college football.
get what they want as well.
Oh,
let's support the actors there too.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
all
That's
that
the whole. I'm still not working because the
exactly
actors
because
are
of the
fighting
act.
for
Yeah,
what they should be fighting for,
correct,
and they hope and they're
correct,
going to win.
correct. It is
Back
not
to
the actor's
college
fault. It
football.
is the studio's. Anyway,
Back to
back to college football.
a different organizational activity that has just allowed its lowest paid members to be paid at all.
Look at
Wow,
you.
the
Well done.
parallels of this.
That was well done, Tyler. Look at you. It's almost like you're a writer. Washington taking on USC. This is easy for me. I don't trust the USC defense. Once again, you know what would be fun? A Missouri Georgia over parlayed with a Washington South Carolina USC over. That might be the play this week. Just want to say that. This is the Michael Penix relax, we're going to be fine game, in my opinion. Not much to say here. I don't trust Alex Grinch. It'll be fun to watch Caleb Williams. Honestly, it'll be fun to watch this game with my brother after watching Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State, so we could hop on the Washington bandwagon. He told me he might want to go to grad school at Washington, so like
that's
kind
cool.
He's kind of buying in to the little Washington Huskies thing.
You have double reason to come to the West Coast.
And anti Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, it's a win-win in our household this weekend. Come on, win-win, my friend, win-win.
God, you're gonna be so upset when the Patriots draft Caleb Williams.
That's not funny. That's not funny. Don't do this. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Wait, hold on.
The only thing worse would be them drafting Michael Penix Jr. I'd be physically upset.
Oh, I would hate that because I respect Caleb Williams and I like Caleb Williams. Clearly the number one quarterback on the board, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I have like an emotional attachment to Michael Penix Jr. I love that guy as a quarterback. So, he is a college legend. Like, I would hate for him to be tearing up the Vic Fangio defense twice a year. I don't want to think about that. I want to think about your pick is what I want to think about.
Yeah, the only hesitation I have here, because Washington's the better team. They've got currently this season, they've got the better quarterback. Now I'm not talking about prospect, but he's having a better season. They've got the better offense, and they've got the better roster. They've got the better everything. There is, though, the one thing that I hold in my head, which is that USC still has Caleb Williams back there. And that's why you can't, like, whatever pick you make, in my opinion, you can't make with the utmost confidence because they still got Caleb Williams back there. Now, they just beat Cal 50-49, and they need every single one of those points. And Caleb Williams and Marshawn Lloyd were doing amazing things for them, and they barely beat a Cal team that is not very good. And so, with all that being said, like, we keep playing this game with USC, and like, yes, there is nothing like this may come down to who has the ball last, and I mean, the last thing I want to see if I'm Washington, like if they're still in the game, if USC is still in the game late in the fourth quarter, I'm worried. Like, because I feel like Caleb Williams will have a shot. I'm getting that feeling for this game. That being said, I will not put my good name, my comeback effort in the hands of Alex Grinch. I won't do it.
There you go.
I won't.
There we go.
Michael Penix Jr. is winning the Heisman. I know that the odds have really slipped lately, but he's going to do it.
Okay, when he beats Oregon in the championship game and they end up,
and if he doesn't, then that means that Bo Nix wins the Heisman. And
I'm not mad about that either.
I know so many people. Our good friend of the pod, Michael Phillips Jr., would be irate. He does not like Bo Nix Jr.
A lot of brands would take a big hit if that happened.
A lot of brands. Not us.
Not us. For some reason, Tyler, I don't know what's crazier. The fact that the number 14 ranked LSU Tigers heading to Tuscaloosa to take on the number 8 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide is a 7:45 kickoff, like the weird specific time.
Never seen it before.
Or I don't know if that is crazier, or if the fact that CBS thinks that they're going to finish the 3:30 game by 7:45. I don't know which is crazier. But alas, this is a CBS game, 7:45. LSU taking on Bama. This is a very interesting game because to me, the winner of this game is going to end up in Atlanta playing Georgia for the SEC championship. But the question here is, who do you trust more? Do you trust Nick Saban and the Alabama run game more, or do you trust Jaden Daniels because he is someone who is also having a Heisman-esque season,
Oh, for
is having an
sure.
incredible performance. That offense is really, really, really good. Defense, not so much. But what like that's my concern, and that's my I don't know. And for the sake of time, I'm just gonna let you know I'm gonna take LSU because
Mm.
I think that even though the game is in Tuscaloosa, I think that LSU can score on the Alabama defense easier than the Alabama offense. And this is a weird way to phrase it, but then the Alabama offense can keep up and play their ball control style, run the football game.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Typically, you would think that logic is kind of inverted, but I think LSU is the better quarterback in this game, and I do think that that has
that's true.
something to
That's
do with it.
true.
So I don't know why, but I feel like this is one of those. I also feel like this is one of those like Brian Kelly. Like I know we've lost. I know we've been losing. I understand the situation that's happened this season, but we need to focus, and I think we can still do this. They already beat them. All right, the monkey is off the back of beating Nick Saban, and this is, in my opinion, a worse Alabama team than the team that LSU beat uh, last year. So
Yeah.
same quarterback situation. They are on the road, so that makes it more difficult, but that's my justification. That's my pick. Who do you have?
All right. So there's a lot at play here because LSU could while LSU winning this game would vault Ole Miss to the top of the conference. Would it? Well, no, because that would just then do a tie. Then it would become a three-way tie because
I'm pulling it up right now.
Ole Miss has lost to Alabama.
So right now, Alabama's 5-0. Ole Miss is 4-1. LSU is 4-1. So an Alabama win would give LSU 2 losses in the conference and would also put them ahead. They still have, they're still sitting above
Look,
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss still has to play Georgia.
Correct. Ole Miss has to play
So
Georgia,
they're
which is
taking another loss, in my opinion.
exactly. So, and that's a conference loss. And so, in my opinion, I think LSU wins. They're going to make it because they're going to hold a tiebreaker over Alabama, and I don't see them losing another. I mean, we could play. We could play
I'd
spoilers.
love for
but
it to happen, but
would love for that to happen. I just don't think it's
so
realistic.
in all likelihood,
Mhm.
in all likelihood, this is the SEC West title, right?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
it usually is. It usually comes down to these two teams, but in all likelihood, this is the SEC West title. This is the game that decided it last year. Everything you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. Like from an LSU perspective, it's so tough for me because LSU's defense is clearly the worst unit in this game.
Mhm.
In my opinion, LSU's offense is the best unit in this game.
Yep.
So, but both Alabama's offense and defense Alabama's defense is great. Alabama's offense is productive-ish. Like it's dangerous, but it's not, I would say, consistently explosive. It's not the way that LSU's is. So from an LSU defensive perspective, you really got to figure out what you're okay with giving up. Because Alabama can either throw 4 verts or they can run the ball. Yep. There's the two things that they do. They do it better than most. Yeah. They don't have an intermediate passing attack, right? But they got a very run game, and Jalen Milroe can hit a deep ball, and they got the receivers, specifically Jermaine Burton, to do it.
Yes.
Now, but they still have not been scoring a lot of points, despite the fact that they are hitting a lot of deep balls and they're running well. They're still not scoring a lot of points. I do think that LSU, they have the best quarterback in the game. They got the better offense. But this sounds eerily similar to that Tennessee game that we talked about.
Yeah.
And Alabama won that game pretty decisively at the end.
They did. Although
it's not comparable, Joe Milton to Jaden Daniel.
I agree that's not comparable there, but it's also Tennessee in the first half.
They were good.
They looked good, and the game plan worked. Alabama just made the adjustments. It's almost like Josh Heupel's not a good in-game adjustments coach, but that's a conversation for another day. I think Brian Kelly's a better version of that. Or not version of that, but Brian Kelly's better at that specific thing.
But I need to make up points, and if my way to do that is taking Nick Saban at home,
there are worse ways to make.
I feel comfortable making this pick. I'm going with Alabama.
I don't blame you for this. I don't blame you at all. Nothing but respect on that pick.
No, yeah, I'm going to go with Alabama.
All right. Tyler, why don't you lead us into the 2
Gosh, I
points?
have to go right into this.
You do have to go right into this.
I'm really struggling here. I've got 3 really good options,
Okay.
and I'm not sure which one I'm going to pick. I am just going to say them out loud. I don't want
Go ahead.
you don't have to say anything. You don't have to give me any pointers. The
Mhm.
3 that I'm debating between are the Notre Dame Clemson game,
Was on my list.
the Iowa State Kansas game,
Was on my list.
and the FAU UAB game.
Was not on my list, but yes. Oh, by the way, the 3:30 slate boycott does not include the FAU UAB game. Well, because it's on ESPN, it's on ESPN Plus, so we're not going to risk like here's a game break showing you what's happening in Oklahoma. You know what I mean?
I hope so.
That whereas if I'm watching the CBS game, it's going to cut in. So that wasn't on my list. But what are you thinking, my friend?
I feel like in the way that I'm breaking this down, FAU is only a 1-point favorite, but I do think that they're a better team than UAB, and it's also fade Trent Dilfer on this podcast. That's the motto.
Absolutely.
Kansas just came off one of the biggest wins in program history. They're a really solid team. They got bowl eligibility, and they're running right into Iowa State, who has been playing good defensively, got a good freshman quarterback. So this feels like a slip-up game for them, for Kansas. And then on the other side, you have Notre Dame Clemson, which Clemson has typically dominated this rivalry in years past. But
you know what's crazy? That's the game of the 3 that you named that I'm most confident in the outcome of.
That's how I feel.
Right?
It's like when I was like, I don't know if I want to go for the brand. And I'm like,
I'll tell you right now. If you don't pick that game,
I'm picking Notre Dame Clemson.
I was gonna say I might reconsider the bit because I might have to want Notre Dame to win because that's what I would do.
I'm picking Notre Dame to beat Clemson,
Clemson,
which sucks because I like watching Clemson. Not this year, but
in general,
I have in the years past, loved watching Clemson. But
man,
hey, remember that time when anybody could talk about college football was like, oh, will Alabama and Clemson ever stop meeting in the national championship?
I do remember that. That.
It's crazy.
Do you remember when everyone was asking when are UCF or Cincinnati going to win their first Big 12 game? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm a sicko, so I just can't stop going back to the
you and I cannot stay away from this.
We just can't do it. We can't do it. They're like they're not okay.
I resolved to myself that I was like, I'm picking against UCF for the rest of the year because they let me down in that spot. I need that 2 point, especially with Boise State somehow beating Wyoming.
Yeah. Listen, I need to make amends for the UCF comments that I made on this podcast. So I'm going to be picking UCF to beat Cincinnati on the road, 3:30 Eastern on FS1. I guess this game will also be on a delay for me because it's the 3:30 slot. But
they better win. UCF better.
This is a.
They are. I truly. They're more talented than Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They got a better coach.
Agreed.
They got a better quarterback. That's for sure.
Agreed. Yeah.
Are they playing? Is it a road game or a home game?
It's at Nippert. It's in Cincy.
Okay, that doesn't bode well. But
no.
God, they better win. If they don't,
I do. Think
I would say the jokes will fly.
The jokes will fly, and honestly, as Stephen Godfrey would say, this is an anxiety bowl because neither of these teams have won a Big 12 game, and these were the brands coming in from the American.
They weren't excited about BYU or Houston. They wanted Cincinnati, UCF, and they have been terrible.
They've been bad. So I'll take UCF. Everyone's healthy. I just think it'll happen. I got to do it. I got to be in on the first Big 12 win. Okay, I tried. I got to be in.
They let me down.
Tyler, recapping
no credit to West Virginia. They let me
none at all to Neil Brown, who saved his job, by the way. Recapping 5 wide and 2 point. Kansas State takes on Texas at noon Eastern on ESPN. I have Kansas State. I have Texas. Tyler has Kansas State. Missouri takes on Georgia. 3:30. Dun, 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 dun. CBS game of the week. We both have the Georgia Bulldogs over Missouri. Oklahoma State. Bedlam for what could be the last time. 3:30 Eastern on ABC. I hope we get Joe Tess and McElroy on this game. They might.
I think that'd be good.
I think they're my favorite college football broadcasting team, to be honest.
Over Kirk and Reese?
Over Kirk and Reese.
Wow.
Yeah, I like Joe Tess and McElroy more, in my opinion. Kirk and Reese is kind of like an institution. It's kind
I
of like
agree.
you
I
expect
agree.
it. And
Sorry,
I might
sorry.
be taking
Kirk
it
and
for
Fowler. Kirk and Fowler. Although Reese
oh
Davis
yeah,
sometimes does it.
Reese did before, but yeah, Kirk and Fowler to me is like an institution. It feels warm and comfortable. That's more like when they're calling your game, you're like, oh, we got a big game. You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, seriously. But the Joe Tess and McElroy team is more like, I don't know. It's like a warm cookie. You know, feels good.
Mm,
I like it. I
yeah.
feel comfortable, and I love Joe Tess as a broadcaster.
Me too.
Across sports. If you watch boxing on ESPN, the Top Rank stuff they do sometimes, I've been known to dabble into the combat sports watching. He's a great boxing commentator as well. Just
He
give
feels
him his
like he'd be
flowers.
good. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
he's
watched
good.
him, but no. The only criticism of Joe Chess and Greg McElroy is, and I'm not a big like ref bias person, but I do believe in announcer bias because
Mhm.
like every time Matt Stinchcomb play
Yeah,
calls
yeah,
against Florida, I'm like, yeah, we get it. You went to Georgia.
yeah.
But
We understand.
it is like Joe Tess and Greg McElroy. I'm just like, you don't like Florida very much, do you?
Yeah,
Which is
that's
a
true.
personal
I
bias.
see
But
it.
if they're playing, but if I'm watching like an important game and they're on it, I'm like, oh yeah, we got it.
Mhm. I like it.
I,
So
I'll
I'm
say,
hoping this is the game. I'm hoping this is the
I'll
game.
say, Fremont. You know how they're talking about in the NFL how Devontae Adams needs to be freed.
Yes.
Free my boy Todd Blackledge. Wasting him.
Not
He's
wrong
wasting
there.
him.
Well, I have Oklahoma. We both have Oklahoma in this game because, as Tyler said, anything can happen in Bedlam except Oklahoma State winning. Washington takes on USC, 7:30 Eastern on ABC. We both have Washington, and LSU takes on Bama, 7:45 for some weird reason on CBS. Tyler has Alabama. I have LSU, and our 2 points. Tyler, Notre Dame over Clemson. I have UCF over Cincy for the Anxiety Bowl of the week. First Big 12 title, first Big 12 game that each team is looking to win. So a little pit stop at Florida Corner. Arkansas, Florida, 12 Eastern, ESPN 2. Okay. Irrespective of my opinion on the black uniforms, do you think that Florida should be wearing these black uniforms the week after what they just did in Jacksonville?
I'm in a state of mourning, so it seems
But a
appropriate
state
to
of
me.
mourning.
It seems appropriate to me. Like
Seems apropos because I have not been hearing nearly as much chatter about these uniforms this week, and I do think it's because we got absolutely.
I mean, it's one of those things.
mollywopped
Like
by the
before
Florida.
Georgia, I'm listening to the podcast. I'm getting on the analysis. I'm like, what am I thinking? What am I prepared? And afterwards, it's like, I don't want to listen to any of that.
No, I don't want to hear
It's-
any of that stuff. I agree. I agree.
No, I mean, and there's just the news that Shamar James, UF's leading tackler, is going to be out for the rest of the season with a dislocated
Yes.
kneecap.
Yes.
So
Thank
doing
you
well though.
to
So
the-
he should be back by spring practice.
Thanks to the grounds crew at Everbank, or what's it called now? It's
Yeah.
not Everbank anymore.
No, it's TIAA Bank Field.
TIAA Bank Field.
So
Bank.
it's nice because we can still call it the bank. You know,
Still call it the
we
bank.
had a whole lockdown the bank thing.
Right,
for
right,
defense,
and
but-
the bank needs new grass because it costs our
Well,
best
you know, it's the
tackler.
thing. It's the city of Jacksonville is.
I know.
I'm not going to
said
comment
that
on it.
the
I'm not going to comment
broadcast.
on it.
They led that on the broadcast. They were like, they did the whole prepackaged intro and all that stuff, and then they were like, and now down to our sideline reporter for an update. And I was like, an update on what? Please don't be an injury. And then they showed the clip, and I was like, oh my god. And they mentioned it. They were like, the city of Jacksonville runs the grass. It's not the Jaguars. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Anyway, point being, we're winning this game, right? Well, let me rephrase that. We have to win this game.
I can't stress enough how this is the most must-win game of the rest of the season.
This is bowl eligibility.
This is bowl eligibility. Now, is it good? Is it great that you're losing your leading tackler when KJ Jefferson is in the backfield? No. In fact, it's terrible. However, Arkansas is bad.
Yes.
Arkansas is bad. They have good players, but they're bad. And yes, they're replacing offensive coordinator because Danny Enos is out. But come on, like
I know
you're at home. Yeah, the black uniforms are not going to help you in this situation because it's a noon game. Which, I mean, I feel like this is one of those moments. In the same way you talk about how flopping is an art, Florida, you should have complained more. Like get at least an afternoon game.
Yeah, for real. In the black unis, you're it's gonna be.
I guess that there's also probably a play like they thought Arkansas would be better.
That's true.
And
that is
most
true.
of our you're not going to wear it for Florida State. Most of our big games are on the road this year. Like if we were hosting, LSU or Missouri, I think that's where it would have come.
Well, why don't you hold them for next? I mean,
they
probably very clear about my opinions on these black uniforms. I think these specific I'm not anti-black uniform. These specific black uniforms suck.
I will give you
but
this, that they don't look great.
These suck. I am not fond of black uniforms just to make black uniforms, but these specific ones suck. Why didn't you hold these for, I don't know, the Miami or UCF game next year, both of which are in the swamp?
I don't know.
So I don't know.
Anyway,
all that being said, must-win game. Sorry, go ahead.
No, must-win game. I do think Florida will win it. Like, okay, let me be very clear. Florida has to win it. There's very much a reason. There's very much a world where Florida doesn't win it, and that's a conversation. But it's, I mean, I'm praying. I think that, like, Graham Mertz, despite the Georgia game, I still think Graham Mertz is playing really well this season.
I agree.
It became so apparent in that game that there was just they were so out-talented, and offensively, like, the first couple drives were good. Had some tough breaks after the first one. Then it became very clear it was more from a defensive perspective. Like, there was just nothing that we could really do. You have what it takes to stop this Arkansas offense. I know KJ Jefferson is crazy, and their defense is not that great. Like, I think that's the thing. This is a statement. This got to be a statement game for the Florida offense. Florida offense has to show up here.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You're missing your best tackler on the defensive side of the ball. Your playmakers got to step up. I agree. Completely agree. Alrighty. Well, Tyler, I'm just going to wrap it up there because this is a long episode. Well, it's become our norm. A little over an hour and a half. Seems like normal now.
Well, I could talk forever with you.
I could also talk forever with you, my friends. Before we go, though, I do have to edit this, get it uploaded, and then pack for my trip. I do want to ask you, any tips for the morning NFL games? Is my anxiety going to be a little running a bit, or what do I have to do? What's the move here?
What I'll say is that if you
coffee to water ratio, what's going on?
What I'll say is that if you lose, you're going to get really more upset than normal because you woke up so early to watch this, and yet here you are.
Yeah.
Look, when, and I'm fortunate to bring this up, in the Urban Meyer year, when the Jacksonville Jaguars beat your Miami Dolphins,
in the Urban Meyer year,
in the ill-fated Urban Meyer year, when Urban Meyer got his first NFL win on European soil, same for Trevor Lawrence, beating your Miami Dolphins at a last-second field goal.
Yes,
I had said to myself, if we don't win this, and I woke up at 6:30 a.m. to watch it, I don't know. I have to rethink my relationship with this team, and we won. So
they did just enough to keep you there. Just enough to keep you there.
I mean, it's different. 9:30 is different than 6:30, but
very
different.
I
mean, I will say breakfast food with football.
Well,
I mean, hard to pass off.
Not just breakfast food. My mom did tell me she was going to make arepas. So
oh boy,
I will be having like mom breakfast during this game, so it will be a good time. I won't lie. Mom breakfast, Colombian coffee.
Right, it's Tua Tagovailoa is just doing the Steph Curry walk off as he throws touchdowns.
Can't wait.
Did you see that? Did you see that video?
So cold. Ice in his veins. The last thing I'll say before we sign off: my stepmom's brother Javi is at the game, going to the game in Germany.
Really? That's awesome.
Yes. He's a Dolphin season ticket holder. He's probably the only person I know that cares about the Dolphins as much as I do. And he's a Dolphin season ticket holder, and he went to the Chargers game last year. He went to both Chargers games out at SoFi. He went to both Chargers games at SoFi, and then he made plans to go to Germany and went this year. He's staying in like a castle or something. His seats are like 10-yard line, like row 8. So I'm gonna try to see if I can spot him. He's gonna be wearing this like super nice white like throwback Dolphins jacket. It's gonna be cold. Oh,
nice!
It'll be so fun.
Nice.
I'm
the cold. You got to factor that into the game.
Oh please, don't do that. Don't. What are you, a Bills fan? Calm down. Calm down. All right. All that being said, Tyler, this has been another episode of Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And we are not biased, Tyler, but go Gators and fins up.
Duval.
Boomer.
No.